Hello and welcome to this month's Better Business webinar, when we are going to look at how you can work a 25-hour week. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But I've done it, and that's why I want to be able to share it with you. And also some of the techniques I use in order to work more efficiently will also help you to grow and scale your business. I'm Della Hudson. I am the founder of 2 accountancy practices, 5 businesses in total, and so I currently run Minerva Accountants. I'm also on the Governing Council for the Institute of Chartered Accountants and a companion of the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. So I was really lucky to be up in London the last couple of days. So I got to the ICB Raising the Standards event, which was so lovely to see so many people and to hear about their future plans. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get on with what you came here for. We are going to look at how you can work a 25-hour week in the same way that I did when I was running my first practice, Hudson Business Accountants and Advisors. So 25 hours a week, and it's all about, spoilers here I'm afraid, systemizing, automating and delegating. It's the only time you want to be sad in business: systemizing, automating and delegating. So you have to have a big smile as you say that, so people know you're not really sad, tearful sad. It's all about systemizing, automating and delegating. So there you go, you've got the answer. But how do you actually go about it? Well, that's the crux of it, isn't it? So let's share some ideas of the way that I've done it in 2 practices now. So when I sold my first practice, because everything was working so efficiently and everything had delegated and things like that, I was able to sell my business for 32% above average, which is a fair chunk more than most accountants would get. So if you're thinking of exiting at some point, then these are the sort of things that you can do too. I now run 3 businesses on around 35 hours per week. So I run Minerva Accountants, and I run a small fintech, Minerva Technology, and I also run Hudson Business Advice, which is where I speak, I write, I coach accountants to run a better business. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. It's the price of a free webinar, of course. Hopefully you'll find something interesting in that, and I'll let you know our offer. So systemizing, what on earth does it mean? And it's not just software. That's why I'm treating automation very separately. It's building processes in your business, standard operating procedures, or whatever you want to call them. And there's all sorts of useful software for recording those once you've come up with them. But how do you come up with them? Now, we run a paperless office, but this is one of the few things that I like to do on paper. In any sort of planning, I want to see it visually on paper, or I've got a couple of whiteboards behind my desk that I pull out whenever I'm coming up with ideas, because you can play around with them and cross things out and draw arrows all over the place and then tidy them up. And when it's all done, you just take the photograph of it so that you've captured it, and then you can get around to making it look neater. But for the planning process, I just want minimal barriers, and I want to be able to work in freeform. So what we do with our operating procedures, for instance, the accounts production one, is you can get some old wallpaper, the back wallpaper. IKEA have really nice rolls of paper, and these are great. So spread it all out on a desk, on the floor, whatever you want to do. And then I have 3 different color post-it notes. So I have one color for what is happening, one colour for the documents that we need and one colour for where we need some more information. And if you've got a team, do this with them as well, because they'll pick up things that you miss. So initially we start off, we map the process as it is with all its imperfections, because you're probably doing something. Start at one end and it's quite a linear thing. Start at the beginning, finish at the end. So with the accounts, with our small clients, we don't do a pre-year end tax review. So we would start with their year end, we send out the reminder, we chase them however many times, we receive the books, we check the books in, we allocate the work to the member of staff, and then we can start the work, which is a very separate checklist and some standard working papers. Work's completed, flagged for review, it's reviewed, sent to the client for approval with the appropriate covering email. Again, with the little ones, we don't tend to have meetings. If there's anything contentious, we'll pick up the phone and talk to them while we're preparing the accounts. So we send out our accounts as final for most of our clients because we've already discussed the issues, and that means that we need to let them know if there's anything they need to be aware of. And of course, we've got the management letters for where we've relied on information that they've given to us. So covering letter, they just want to know how much tax they've got to pay. So we actually tell them their turnover, because that's a nice figure they can see growing, and it's probably one that they recognise. We can tell them the profit, and then we'll tell them the tax, how they pay it, what reference number they use, you know, all the other little bits that it saves them coming back. So you build in these efficiencies as you go. Every time there's an inefficiency in the business, you should come back and rework this process. So sort of every time I send out an email telling clients how much tax they've got to pay, they immediately come back and ask, how do I do it? So just include that in the email where you're telling them how much. Anyway, so we send that out, and then we chase them to sign it, of course. And once it's signed, then we can submit it to Companies House, to HMRC, wherever it needs to go. And of course, don't forget to send the journals back to the bookkeeper, because that's the bit I always forget, and I have to apologise to every single bookkeeper I've ever dealt with. Please, if I don't send you the journals automatically, or my team don't send them automatically, please just ask us. We've got them there. But the beauty is, you know, we generally work with zero and zero tax, so we post the journals as we go, in which case the request to bookkeepers is we do put an explanation on there, but if anything's unclear, come back and ask. We're all in the same profession. We just want to know what's going on and how best to support our mutual clients. So do liaise with us. So we've got this roll of wallpaper with everything mapped out. You can get online software that will do this for you, proper planning software. But as I say, I prefer to do it in a manual process. I would then get out the sellotape and stick those Post-it notes onto the paper. I've learned from experience, as soon as you pick up the paper, all those Post-it notes just drop off. So make sure they're stuck in place, and it's also worth taking a photograph. And then somebody can be delegated to write up that procedure. So you've got your existing process, and then again, you have your team and they go, okay, so how can we do this? Where's the bottleneck? And for ages, one of the bottlenecks was that because we're a firm of chartered accountants, I reviewed every set of accounts that was leaving the business to go to a client. And I was only working 25 hours a week, trying to do 101 things in that time. So it's okay, what should we do instead? So we decided we would change that standard, that all accounts were either prepared by or reviewed by a chartered accountant. So we had, because we have mainly AATs, we had one chartered accountant and we had one very competent, experienced CTA studying. She was studying for CTA, so she wasn't qualified, but she was very good. So what we did was most of the accounts were reviewed by the other chartered accountant in the business, and the accounts she prepared were reviewed by this very competent CTA trainee, so that we always had a chartered accountant involved in the process somewhere, as well as me setting the processes, doing the recruitment and so on. So work out where your bottlenecks are. And this should be a constantly improving process. Everything I talk about is about continuous improvement. So it's not just one and done. So we start off with where we are today. You assess it from improvements. Do involve the team, as I've said. Take any decisions when you found the bottlenecks, and then you implement it. So if it's an internal thing, you can usually go straight away. If it's something with client facing, then you would implement it with your best client first, as in the one who's most forgiving of things. And you can say, look, we're trying a new process. Do you mind if we start with you? And they get all the attention while you iron out anything. So it's a bit like my son's partner is working at a restaurant that's about to open, and they start with a soft launch. So it's not actively promoted. It's just friends, family, and a few others who are invited to that while they just iron out the kinks, because there obviously are. So you start with one client, you roll it out to 2, 5, 10, and then just take it to the rest of your client base. And I know some of you might only have a handful of clients now. I do appreciate that. But the principle's the same. You start with the one and then you roll it out to the others. You get your win, and then you go back looking for improvements. Keep going round this circle looking for improvements. So it might be that something like your accounts production process, you review every year. So February, March, we do a lot of process improvements because we've got through all the self-assessment. We've got through all the March year ends that have got the December deadline. So we can spend that time in February, March, improving our own business. You might do some of these things every year. You might just do them every few years when something begins to feel a little bit old and jaded. So it's continuous improvement. And this is also part of our Scale Up Blueprint, which is one of the courses I run. And actually it's our Better Business webinar next month will be the quick overview of the Scale Up Blueprint. So what would you be looking at? We look at the lead generation. You can build systems into your marketing. The engagement and onboarding is how you clients onboarded as quickly and efficiently as possible. So you've got to do 64H, you've got to do anti-money laundering, you've got to do so much flipping admin, and we also make sure we send them a box of chocolates to welcome them in somewhere amongst all this hassle. Especially we use Bright Manager, so it's a lot of it is done online. So actually, why don't I go through? So for the lead generation, we do a lot on social media. So our main tool there would be Mentimeter. That's not Mentimeter, Menticool. for scheduling our posts and also tracking your analytics on those posts. So if you don't already follow me on social media, I'm on most of them as Della Hudson FCA. And our client-facing things are Minerva Accountants, if you want to have a little nose at those. So lead generation, we have various processes as well for our top tips. We do 2 top tips emails each week, one to accountants, bookkeepers for Hudson Business Advice, and one goes to our business owners for Minerva Accountants. So it's the same process for 2 of my businesses. Engagement onboarding, like I say, we use Bright Manager is very good for that, and we get them to sign up to go cardless in order to have automated payments. We set recurring invoices on Xero so that I set it up once a year, changing the price, and then when we come to the end of the 12 months, I know we need to do a price review. Compliance work, this is your accounts production, the standard stuff. This is probably your biggest, most important process to get right. So if you haven't done this before, I would start with your compliance stuff, your accounts production, or if you're a bookkeeper, it's your monthly, your standard monthly bookkeeping process. And then you sort of have your variations on that, because no 2 clients are alike, much as we might try to make them. And because we use Bright Manager, it has a lot of automated reminders in there. But as we have as part of our engagement letter, we say, we use a lot of automated reminders. But if you have any questions, just reply to the email and it'll be answered by a human being. So none of this no reply email stuff. Don't you find that really annoying when you've got a question and you've got no easy way of getting back? And sometimes you really struggle to find a contact email. You might get a phone number, but actually I want to email, not phone, thank you. So anyway, it's one of my gripes, not being able to contact a human being very well. But we all want the automation because we need to run our businesses efficiently. And then advisory as well, or any other value add services that you add, need to be automated as much as possible. And for that, you would use something like Clarity HQ. Sorry, it completely passed my mind. Going back to the compliance software, of course, we use Xero and therefore Xero Tax as part of that process. But you'll start to build your tech stack, and that's a whole other story. What else do we do when we look at these as part of the Scale Up Blueprint? It's looking after yourself and looking after your people. And we also have a very good look at your pricing. So you should have a process there for annual price increases. So it's built into our engagement letter that we will have an annual increase. So what's the actual process of calculating it? What's the process of sharing it? And what's the process for updating all those recurring invoices as they come along? And then, so we've got our systems mapped, we've got our automation in place. So then we look at delegating. So Hudson Business Accountants and Advisors, we had a small team, flexible working, we had office premises, fairly conventional in that regard. We had a very flat structure. I'm not into micromanaging, and we were a smallish team. We were a little bit bigger than the photograph suggests, but it's a we all had those processes. We were all involved in mapping that. So we knew what we were doing, delegated. So that's part of, you have a decent recruitment process. And then you have a review process at the end of the probationary period. And then you have annual appraisals. We had weekly lunch and learns, monthly lunch and learns. We were above a Domino's pizza. So we just ordered however many pizzas, and we went through what was going on in the business, what my plans were, and any CPD people had done that could be shared and things like that. So we knew who was the expert on whatever it was they'd just been to learn about. So pick the best people, train them up, get out of their way, let them get on with the job. Now with Minerva Accountants, we operate an outsourced model. So we've only got 3 of us working, employed in the business. So that's myself, that's a business manager, Kate, who is an absolute fabulous. She runs the whole business. And then we have Binaj, who does the in-house bits that aren't worth sending to our outsourced service. So that's Minerva Accountants. And my job is just I produce the content. Kate gets it out there online, offline, however we're promoting. And then I handle the discovery calls. Goes back to Kate to onboard. And then I probably next get involved just reviewing the accounts to go out. Because again, I'm the only in-house chartered accountant, so I review them before they go out. Minerva Technology, well, it's there are all sorts of processes for building technology. So we adapt them even on small scale. And Hudson Business Advice. Now this is where I speak, I write, I coach consultants and accountants and bookkeepers to run a better business. So that's very much about me, but I still am able to systemize, have coaching sessions. I have a certain format that, yes, I tweak, but I have a fairly standard format to start with, and how I document the sessions and so on. We have Kate will do all the content sharing that based on the content that I generate, and so she looks after everything that isn't the actual live delivery and content generation. And frankly, if you see something on social media with a nice picture or one of those Canva cards, that's Kate. She does all that. So even in Hudson Business Advice, which is essentially a one-person business, it's not. Kate is there behind the scenes doing all that. So even a small business, it's possible to delegate, even if it's just to a virtual PA or something like that. So I want you to have a look at what systems do you need to document. Let's get them documented. It makes it a lot easier when you start recruiting, when things are documented. It also helps you if you're really busy or you're distracted, you can find where you were in the process. Which of your repeat jobs would benefit from systems? So set up some workflows, find out where you're the bottleneck and see what you can do about that. Can you train somebody else to do some or all of that? Delegate it, control it through software. So you're systemizing, automating, and delegating. So we've got various additional information. So we've got some free stuff, and then we've got some paid stuff. So follow me on social media. Kate will make sure there's lots of stuff out there, and on most days to answer any questions there. We've got our top tips for accountants. So if you go on to hudsonbusiness.co.uk/accountants, you'll see that you can sign up there for our weekly top tips. We have these Better Business webinars each month. They're free of charge. And then we've got 2 books written for accountants, The Numbers Business. I'm in the process of writing the 2nd edition at the moment, so it's just the 1st edition out there. It may have gone out of print, but you can still get the audiobook and the Kindle. and then Changing the Numbers, which is about how to deliver advisory services for success. So if you're just starting out, have a look, hudsonbusiness.co.uk/accountants, and see what resources we've got there. If you are going for a bit longer, then you can invest some money. We have some mini courses. They start at just £15 and VAT. We have monthly group coaching. It's £100 a month, but if you pre-book for 12 months, then it's a reduced monthly rate. We have our Numbers Business online course, which takes the foundations of the book and goes very much more into how you implement it in your practice, because I can speak to you as we're doing it. And we have the Scale Up Blueprint, which is for larger practices, or sorry, more mature practices looking to scale up. And of course, anytime you've got that individual coaching where you can have a one-to-one session with me. So with our group coaching, we've got an offer of 25% off if you're a member of the Accounting and Bookkeeper Support Group, but you need to let me know by Friday. So what you can do is you can get a double discount. So instead of signing up for 1 month, you can sign up for 12 months, where you get that discount, and then you get a further 25% off for that. But whatever you do come back 12 o'clock on the 1st of July for our next Better Business webinar, where we'll be going into that Scale Up Blueprint in more depth, looking at what you can systemize in your processes. So it's not the full course, I'm afraid. I can't afford to give that away, but you can get a little taster of the first session on that course, the overview, as it were. So it's been lovely to have you online. If you've got any questions, do post them in the chat and I'll answer them. Otherwise, have a fabulous afternoon. Take care. Bye.